Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to our club meeting today. And I want to thank Claudia, and we had another greeter. Thank the greeters, doing a great job. And how about Kirk? You know, lead us in the pledge salute and four-way test.
Please join me in saluting our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, will you say with me the four-way test of the things we say and do? First, is it the truth? Second, will it be fair to all concerned? Third, will it be goodwill and better friendship? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And Patty. Inspiration from Patty Hansen.
So as we go through our day, every day, we are busy. We're helping other people. We're doing projects for people. We're taking care of our family, our spouse, and we're really busy. So I thought I'd share some wise words from Facebook mem. So, but I thought they were good. So if you're busy, please listen. If you can't meditate, pause before each sip of coffee. If you can't pray, simply say thank you before each meal. If you can't manifest, enjoy what's already yours. And if you can't journal, talk to yourself in the car. There's no spirituality work rule book. Just show up for yourself in ways that feel good to you.
Okay, time to acknowledge our guests at this meeting. The first one, we have our Bruce Rees. He's a fellow Rotarian, and he is also our assistant governor for a 3-year term. I think you're into your second year. Okay, anyway, here's Bruce. And then other guests. Okay, Pat. Thank you. And okay, John, and would you use the mic, please? I'll bring it.
I want to introduce the dog sitter in chief.
This is Judy Davidson.
Yeah, Judy's also a prospective member, and she's also lead on the mural too. She did the designs on the mural drawings that we're working on too. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's it. I'd like to invite Pat up here to receive her blue badge. And as she's walking up, she brought her son. I just want to mention, I'm probably not the only one, but you may not remember, but you taught our daughter math in middle school, I think. And what grade was it? Science. And she's actually got a degree in biology and chemistry. So she learned well. Anyway, so Pat, I'm not sure how official we make this, but congratulations. You survived the rigors of going through the red badge to get the blue badge. So congratulations. Okay, how about announcements? This is almost unheard of. No announcements? Well, I'll tell you what, actually that works well because Jean Marie will use the time between before the speaker begins to we want to talk a little about finances and where the money goes, because I know not all everybody understands it. We have new members, so I thought Jean Marie would give us a few minutes. Steve, did you want to raise your hand?
Yes, I could. English possible because our computer is slowed up right now. I just called it.
Oh, so Jean Marie. Okay, instructions, speak slowly. Yeah, right there.
All right. With a live mic. Okay, so there's always confusion about what to do with money because we've got 3 different places you can send it. And I think there will always be confusion about where to send money. And that's perfectly fine. Wherever your money gets sent, we will make sure that it gets to the right place. So even if you send it to the wrong person, it's our job to make sure it gets to the right place. But I want to give everybody the opportunity to know where it should go. See this work. Turn on. There we go. All right. So we have 3 buckets of money that we send our money to, 3 buckets that we put our money into. Okay, so we can send money to our club, to the RG Rotary Foundation, and to the Rotary Foundation, which is the international foundation. Let's stand on this side. There we go. So if you're sending money to our Road Gateway Rotary, that's for our club operations. The money that comes to us is to operate the club, and it's not tax deductible. So any checks or cash you send to the club, not tax deductible. For the RG Rotary Foundation, that is our individual clubs foundation, and money that goes there is tax deductible, as is the money that goes to the Rotary Foundation, which is also known as TRF, and that is Rotary International's sort of global foundation. Okay. So money that comes to the club for operations, dues, happy bucks, pledges, which there aren't very many of, but if you are a club member and you think, gosh, our dues are really pretty reasonable and we could use some more money for operations, you can pledge additional money above and beyond what we charge for dues. So some members do that. We have Polio Plus jars. I think they were out last week. I don't see them this week, but no worries. So when we do have Polio Plus jars out, you throw that money in there. It comes into the club as a pass-through. Then the club donates it to the Rotary Foundation for polio, but that money comes into our club. We get district grants actually come through our club, the matches. So when we write a district grant and we get a match from the district and from Rotary International, that money comes to our club. We actually have a separate bank account for that. Which is why it's a little slightly different color. And then we also get transfers, money transferred from the club foundation into our club operations. So those are all the places money comes from to the Road Gateway Rotary Club. The foundation is basically donations coming from our club members and from the community for our local projects and causes. And Porch Fest is a big kind of contributor of money. Most of the money comes through from Porch Fest. Also, I didn't put up on here the blue bag. So our bottle donations all come into the club foundation, RG Rotary Foundation. And then money that goes to the Rotary Foundation are those donations that you want to make for the larger Rotary programs and causes, Polio Plus, Annual Fund, Peace Scholars, those kinds of things, grants. So any questions about the money coming in, which bucket you put the money in? Okay. So if you take a look just at Road Gateway Rotary Club, What we use that money for is to pay international and district dues, administrative fees like our post office box or our software, our subscription to Zoom. We pay for fellowship events often to host fellowship events. And then when we invite speakers and guests, we cover their lunches. So those are the kinds of things that get paid for out of the club operating cost. We also, again, remember we transfer some money from the RG Rotary Foundation bucket into the club operations bucket, and that's to pay for things like all of our youth programs, youth exchange, RILA, any club service projects that we do like the mural, international projects, shelter box. So all of that is money that's coming from the club. Technically, the club is making that donation, but those funds come through the RG Rotary Foundation. And then we also, again, going back to those polio jars, pay money out to the Rotary Foundation for Polio Plus. Okay, so looking at the RG Rotary Foundation, a little closer. Again, that money that we transfer over to pay for our local youth programs and other projects that we have in our club. But we also pay out money to external groups like the nonprofit beneficiaries of Porch Fest. We had 5 nonprofit organizations that we supported. We also do special projects like the wildfire relief project that we had a few years ago, or support for Ukraine. So there are occasions when the money that we're collecting at the club foundation goes outside of our club. And then of course, the Rotary Foundation money. There are multiple buckets that you can donate to. So when you donate to the Rotary Foundation as a whole, you can select where you want your money to go to. There's annual fund share, and we promote that a lot because, of course, we have a program called Every Rotarian Every Year, E-Ray. And the goal there is that every member of our club will donate at least $25 to the annual fund. And I'll explain why that's important in a moment. You can also donate to the Polio Plus Fund specifically. If there are specific global grants that you know of, it doesn't have to be one of ours, but if you know that a club somewhere in the world is doing a global grant that you're really passionate about, you can donate directly to one of those. You can donate to the Disaster Response Fund that Rotary International has put together. And then there's also the endowment that you can make a contribution to, or areas of focus. If you're really passionate about water and sanitation and you just want your money to go there, you can distinguish which funds your money goes into. The reason why we love the annual fund share is because any money that our district donates this year, half of that money comes back to our district in 3 years. And that's the money that is used to create the match for our district and global grants. So the more money that we contribute to the annual fund, the more money we'll have in 3 years to be able to do grants that we want to do. So that's why that's really important. The other thing to know is that if you're interested in getting a Paul Harris Fellow Award, which you'll hear a lot about throughout the year, the donations that count for that are money that goes to the annual fund, Polio Plus, or global grants. So if you want to accumulate points for your Paul Harris Award, you would want to make sure your money gets into one of those buckets. So wrap up with who gets your money if you're not sure where to send it to. And again, no matter where you send it, we'll make sure it gets to the right place. But just for clarification, if you're sending money to the club for your dues or your happy bucks or whatever, that goes to the Gateway Rotary Club treasurer. This year it is Laurel Sampson again. And if you're mailing it in, we have a PO Box 14. So that's where you would send that money. If you're trying to get your money to the RG Rotary Foundation because you want a tax deduction and it's for one of our projects, you would send that to the RG Rotary Foundation, and our treasurer is Jan Jones. And we have a separate PO box for that, it's 176. And if you are making your contribution to the Rotary Foundation, probably easiest way to do that is online at rotary.org. But if you want to write a check, you can pass that on to Kirk Brown, who is our club TRF chair. And he can make sure that gets sent off to you, and you can send that to the same club PO Box 14. Questions? Yes, Susan. Yes, credit card or PayPal. So we do have a PayPal account for the club. And I believe the link is usually in the navigator and in emails that go out periodically. And I don't see them out, but there's usually a card on the tables here with a QR code. And that's to get to the PayPal for our club for happy bucks and dues and things like that. Does the foundation have? I don't think we have PayPal, but we do have a Square. We don't pull it out as often as maybe we should, but if you're interested in making a donation via credit card for the foundation, for our club foundation, let us know and we can make that happen. And then of course you can contribute online to Rotary Foundation and use a credit card that way. Any other questions? Okay, hopefully that clarifies things a little bit, but we'll repeat this a lot because it's easy to forget and there's a lot. So thank you.
Thank you, Jean Marie. To me, it's very clear. Just a few announcements before we get onto the program. I want to thank everyone over the last few weeks who've been encouraging people to sign up for the committees and the different project teams. And Bev kind of led the charge. So thanks everybody for doing that. And then secondly, a gentleman named Bob Brooks, who is a fellow Rotarian from the Wednesday Club, has passed away recently. And I thought it might be a nice gesture if the club sent a card to his spouse. So if anybody has, I believe we have some club cards somewhere. If you could let me know how to get them. Oh, they're in here. There you go. Thank you. Okay, Steve, are we ready?
So by a show of hands, how many of you have concerns when you read the newspaper, watch TV about things that might be happening in our lives? Okay, pretty much everybody. And, you know, I was reading a Washington Post article this morning, and it was talking about how many people, when they are concerned with what's going on, they're really not mad. Some people are, obviously, but many people are sad about what's going on in the world. And it can affect our mental health. And some of us, hope, I think, is an important part of our lives, but they may not have the benefit of being able to carry around hope in their arms. But our speaker today, Angela Franklin, Angela Franklin is an older adult behavioral health specialist and suicide prevention coordinator with Options for Southern Oregon, serving Josephine County. Angela is a practicing death midwife and has worked with elders as a caregiver, hospice volunteer, and community educator. Residing in rural Southern Oregon for over 10 years, she brings deep respect and care for the Illinois Valley and Josephine County residents into her work through training, networking, and linking resources. She is a founder of Journey Home Support Services, a community-based organization focusing on practical death care, education outreach, and community grieving support. And this mental health is such, you know, is an important part of who I am in life. And I've learned so much by knowing Angela and what she does. And I'm so happy today that she'll be able to present to our club. Thank you very much.
That are available for those who everyone gets one, and then there's different extras you like to explore. So there we go. Okay. So my name is Angela Franklin, and I have two official roles in the county. And I'm going to talk a little bit about each of those roles and the overlap that they have, specifically when we're talking about suicide prevention and our response to suicide deaths. Perfect. So the first thing that I want to talk about is I'm an older adult behavioral health specialist, and that is with a statewide initiative that was started in 2015 that the Oregon Health Authority funds. And we have
now 26 specialists statewide. And what we do is we are located within our local mental health organizations or our area agencies on aging. And I am contracted and located within Options for Southern Oregon. So that is the organization that I work out of. So what we do are a lot of different things. Yes. I think I pushed the wrong button and it maybe reset. Do you want to advance for me? Okay. So we do a couple of different things. We do trainings for individuals. Well, okay, I'll back up because this is a slide. So the reason why we exist is because Oregon's older adult population is growing really rapidly. So we know that by 2023, we will see 1 million older adults, so 65 years and older in Oregon. And we're going to have more older adults than there are people 18 years and younger. So that's a lot to think about on what our supports are available and how we need to build up our workforce and support capacity within our county. The second thing is that 1/4 of older adults reported to experience anxiety and depression since the start of the pandemic. We also know that Oregon has the highest US rate of 65 plus that have been hospitalized for opioid-related issues. And that looks like overdose, use, and dependency. And so really because of this, our initiative does not look at insurance, so anyone can be supported by us. And so we are able to do a lot of things. And see, next slide. Okay, so I do want to go into some of the statistics around suicide in older adults, and I want to acknowledge that this can be a really difficult topic for folks. Most of us have been touched by a suicide death in our lives, whether it's someone close to us or someone out in the community, and we're seeing the effects that it has on those that were close to that person. And then also even having the effect of more like celebrity suicide deaths. So pretty much all of us have been affected. So I want to know you to know that it's okay if you feel like you don't want to, stick around for this talk. It's completely okay. So when we're looking at suicide and the overlap between some of my roles, I want to look at the majority of Oregon's suicide prevention efforts are among youth. And it's definitely needed because it's really devastating when anyone dies by suicide, but it's really devastating for people when it's young folks who die by suicide. So we have a lot of mandated legislature, which a lot of states do not have, where we have to respond to suicide deaths of anyone 24 years and younger. And so that looks like going in and making sure that anyone who's impacted has free resources and supports, and we can help tend to the impact. However, I did not know this until I was really in my position as an older adult behavioral health specialist, is that the majority of the suicide deaths in the country and in Oregon and in Josephine County are older adults. And so when we look at the statistics, we have 33% are of folks 45 to 65 years old, 23% are over 65. And so this, to some people, is news, and it's not expected. Okay, next slide. So this is just a quick slide. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it. But this shows that the red are male suicide deaths in Oregon. The blue are both, so all, and then the orange is female. So just to give you an idea that in 2020, that we had 85.45% of our suicide deaths were of folks 85 years and older. And nationally, it is 75 years and plus for suicide deaths. Some of the reasons that people and the families around them have reported or that people had noted themselves and before their death was physical health problem, a diagnosed mental disorder, and then those who had left a suicide note were about 30%. Someone who had an expressed history of suicidal thoughts or a plan, and then someone who had a depressed mood. So all of these are around 30%. So I want to look at some of the risk factors of why it is that older adults have the highest risk for suicide deaths, but then also look at some of the protective factors that we can work towards. So physical illness, disability, and pain are one of the leading risk factors. Social isolation, which we know is a national issue now. We even have Vivek Murthy, giving talks and putting out a new book. He's our attorney, surgeon general, and being male. So that is a risk factor, and being unpartnered. So someone who either does not have a spouse, or someone who had recently lost a spouse or their partner. And then that feeling of burdensomeness. So some of the protective factors that we can work towards is helping people reach out for mental and physical health problems and support. And I really appreciate Steve and the work that he has done to make that more of a open public conversation. We are looking for more social connectedness. So getting those different social activities together. We have the grants, or the Josephine County Senior Resource Center just started re-engaging with all of their activities. They opened their doors right before COVID and they had to close them. So a lot of our community members don't know that we have this amazing resource here. And we have free activities every Tuesday and Thursday. And we also, you guys are doing an amazing job of providing that outlet to be connected. We also want to work on skills in coping and adapting to change. There's a lot of, and grief support. So when we look at grief, a lot of times we think of physical death is what we grieve. But in fact, we grieve all of the transitions in our lives, all those, I call it like the 1,000 tiny deaths. And so when we start seeing a change in our mobility, when we see a change in our autonomy, when we maybe retire, or if we have to leave our own personal home and go into an assisted living facility. These are all periods in our life that we need to grieve. And we haven't done a really good job of educating people on what sadness, what sorrow, what grief is, and how we can tend to that. Because it's not just an individual practice. It's something that takes a community. It takes being witnessed in that to really be able to move through your grief journey. Okay. So there has been an adult suicide intervention and prevention plan that was just published this year. It's really amazing. It is very in-depth. But if anyone is interested, I can give you the link to that if you want to take a look, because older adults and people residing in rural areas and other subgroups were all looked at. And we had focus groups and different experts in those areas all come together for a couple of years and really do a lot of work on this. So this is kind of groundbreaking to have all of these different possibilities put in place. Next. So as an older adult specialist, I think I actually misplaced this slide. This was supposed to be before we jumped in. So we work a lot on building alliances. We work to identify gaps and barriers. And one of the best things that we do is that we create stakeholder alliances. So we have a monthly older adult health and wellness coalition meeting, which is open to the community, and it's attended by healthcare providers and different support people. And we would really love to have more community members with lived experience being able to come and give us input on the things that you're seeing in your lives and how we can better support folks. The other thing is we provide trainings and education, and I'll get some slides to show you what's coming up. And then we do complex care consultations. So this is not just for behavioral health providers. If you as an individual have a family member or know someone that you feel like maybe needs to have a conversation about how to better support them, that's something that I can do. And it's something that we can work together and create kind of a care team to make sure that they know how to navigate this insane complex systems of care, and to also create better communication between all of our siloed agencies of support within our county. Okay, so an exciting thing, since before COVID, we're going to have our first Josephine County Resource Fair, Senior Resource Fair at the fairgrounds on September 8th. I'm going to be giving 4 little short 30-minute micro learnings. So if you are going to attend this year, which I really would love for all of you to do, I'm going to be giving a talk on emotional and mental wellness, talking about how to identify depression and sadness, and the difference between that and grief in our lives. We're going to do one just on grief and loss. We're going to do one on aging with pride. So talking about what folks have told me about what it's like to age in rural Oregon as an LGBTQ community member. And then also all of the different social and other supports that are available, because this is something that it's not easy just to put that out there to the public, because there's a little a need for safety. So that is a good thing. And then the con is that not a lot of people know that these things exist. So this will be a space for folks to come and learn about the different groups and the different organizations that support this amazing community. And then the last one, the last leaf to fall, solo aging and preparing for the last stages of life. One of the areas that I specialize in is advanced care planning. So to talk about what it is that we need to think about when we're looking at our healthcare decisions, so advanced directives and pulse, but then also looking at our after death plans. So after death care directives and learning about all the different possibilities when we come to what we will be doing with our bodies and the ceremonies and the different ways that we can be involved. Okay. So the current projects of the Older Adult Initiative that we're working on is a compassionate presence project where we've trained volunteers, community volunteers, on how to companion someone that has a life-limiting illness. And so like a hospice volunteer, but it extends outside of that 6-month mark. And so we want to get people when they are still able to have really meaningful conversations and interactions, because a lot of times people wait till the very end to go to hospice. And at that point, they're not communicating that much. And there's the possibility and the chance to kind of work on some of the things that's causing them distress, that timeline is just not there. So we've trained 15 people in Josephine County, and we're about halfway in our project. So if anyone wants to refer a family member or yourself, please get a hold of me, because we still have volunteers that want to be paired. So I talked about the advanced care planning. We can move forward with that. So we are looking for providing grief support facilitator training. We have very few options in Josephine County right now. There's an amazing group, Winter Spring, that's in Jackson County, but unfortunately they can't provide services in Josephine County. So if you or anyone wants to drive to Medford and participate, you can, or online. And so we are working with RVCOG and different organizations, All Care, to start working on finding funding to provide these trainings and to recruit people who would like to do support groups. So again, if that's something you're interested in, please get a hold of me. And then the Stakeholder Coalition, every fourth Thursday, 2 to 3, you can go for it. And then the Suicide Prevention Coalition, I want to touch upon. So we have a coalition that meets monthly, and this is a really great group of people, and we are open to the community as well. So if you would like to be involved, we welcome you. We received a grant from the kind of a roundabout way from the CDC. So the CDC gave the OHA a 5-year grant to help address suicidality in older adults and veterans. And so through that grant, we've been able to do a lot of awesome things. And one of them is to provide smaller grants to different suicide prevention coalitions and groups across the state. And so we will be doing 2 things with that funding. We're going to be purchasing a large amount of lockboxes for medications, for handguns, for rifles. And then we're going to be providing 2 events that are either going to be attached onto another community event or just a standalone, where we're going to provide the education and distribute those lockboxes to anyone in the community that wants them. Because we know that there is a direct correlation between suicide deaths and access to lethal means. And so we work really hard not to frame things as in taking away someone's right to have arms, but we definitely want to educate people on how important it is when we are in a mental health crisis to establish distance and time from these lethal means, such as firearms and medications. The other thing that is pretty exciting, and it is just about to kick off, and it'll be one of the last things we talk about, is we have developed a program called Handle with Care. It started in West Virginia, and it is going throughout the country. We will be the 2nd county in Oregon to implement a program. And so basically what it does is it creates communication between law enforcement and school districts, so that we know that children that experience trauma early in life, or just people who experience trauma early in life, that it is more likely, the more number of traumas that they experience, that they will more likely be have substance use or misuse, are more likely to be obese, are more likely. So there's a whole load of different things that are connected to the amount of trauma that we experience in early childhood. And this is called ACEs for anyone. And another one is death by suicide. And so because of this, we want to be able to be more trauma informed in our approach and response to behaviors in the classroom. So we found that this is kind of an upstream way that we can identify students that have experienced trauma with law enforcement and without divulging any private information. We can have them send a name and a birth date to the schools, and then the schools can notify the teachers that this person needs to be handled with care. And that's where it ends. There's no asking what happened. There's no, special treatment besides being aware that if someone is falling asleep in class, if someone's not being able to concentrate, that these behaviors might have a reason behind it, and we need to be more trauma informed when we address it. So this is a program that we're just finalizing, and it's going to kick off at the beginning of the school year in just a few weeks. So we will let you know how it goes, and hopefully other counties will also be replicating this program. Okay, so I want to invite you all, if you would like, to a virtual training. It is a QPR training, which is a gatekeeper training. It's 2 hours long, and it teaches you the things that you can do to help someone who is in crisis. And so this one is geared towards older adults in the beginning and at the end, but the whole middle QPR training is a evidence-based training that is for people of all ages. So it would be great for as many people to be trained as QPR gatekeepers, just to know how to ask a person the question, how to give a person possibilities of what is available, and then also to refer. And so who do we know that we can refer this person to for help? And that can be formal and informal helpers. So if you would like to register for this training, it's free, and it's September 7th. You can get a hold of me and I'll help you out with that. Okay, so what can we do? What can you do? I would love for you to consider joining either of the coalitions, getting trained in QPR or some of the other trainings that we provide for free in the county. And then also possibility is of the Rotary Club to sponsor a grief support group. And so that's just a little ask, a little planting of a seed. So I want to thank you all for letting me, and I can open up to questions. I don't know how much time we have, but I definitely can answer any questions. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for a great discussion, but my concern is about social media and something that we have no way to control right now. And how much lobbying power can, and I would love to have Rotary be part of that, how much lobbying power can we have in changing the rules with social media for these kids that get influenced?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and also probably a really difficult one, because we do a really good job of helping people keep their privacy, and the younger generation does a really good job of engaging in social media that we have no access to. And so this is a conversation that we, as the people who respond to suicide deaths, when we get together, one of our biggest frustrations is not being able to monitor social media after a suicide death, because there's certain things that you have to be, invited to be part of that conversation. So with Discord or Snapchat and Instagram, a lot of the folks are using Facebook less in the younger generation. So there are different groups that are working to kind of make this their specialty, and having people who are a part of that, that group and can have a little bit easier access to figure these things out. So actually talking to the people of the younger generation and getting them to understand the benefits of letting people know when someone is in crisis. So I'm sorry if that didn't answer your question, but I feel it. Yeah. Any other? Yeah.
You sort of are. The protective screen that you had this on your slideshow, that you could do a whole meeting, I'm sure. And that's one of your seminars. We'll have cover a lot of that. But so your slideshow, can you share it with us and so that we can send it out to all of our members? I thought that was good. And it was interesting. I thought the construction workers were high on your list. And can you tell us why? That seems to be the issue.
You know, that is not an area where I have had a lot of focus on. But one of my counterparts in Douglas County has created a few different events specifically for construction workers. And so I believe that it's a targeted high-risk population because of stress and all of those different factors that create higher risk. But we can also talk about law enforcement has an extreme high risk of suicide. Doctors have a very extreme risk of suicide. Any of the very stressful jobs will have a higher risk of suicide. And a lot of times we don't do a good job of tending to those first responders. And in this county, we have amazing leadership in our law enforcement. And we've had lots of conversations with how they can support their officers. So I'm really happy about that. Doug? Mm-hmm. Okay. So at this time, it is just law enforcement agencies. So we've created a MOU, a memorandum of understanding, where those departments have committed to participating. So it is the sheriff's, the police department, and the Oregon State Police. So those are the three. And we'll look into extending that. We have people from DHS who are a part of our coalition and part of our Handle with Care implementation team, and also a provider from Siskiyou Health Clinic. So all of these folks are kind of like, ooh, we're interested. Let's see if we can broaden the people.
Actually, I was surprised at the slide that showed what a relatively small slice of the overall suicides the teens were, because that's always what you hear. And you know, my impression would have been that they're at the greatest risk. Is that just something we've all just, you know, are just kind of misinformed about generally? Or is it because that's where we spend all the resources? And does that mean that that money actually works?
So when we're looking at those slides, we're talking about suicide deaths. It doesn't mean suicide attempts. So when we look at younger adults, we have, I believe, 1 suicide death for every 200 attempts. And we have 1 suicide death for older adults for every 4 attempts. So when we're looking at that, we're looking at the means that is being used. Yeah. And so when the people with the most suicide deaths oftentimes use the most lethal means.
Hello. Okay, the Handle with Care. Did I hear you say that Josephine County is only the 2nd county in Oregon? How come?
It's not widely known, And when I've been giving talks about it, people's eyes are super wide and they're like, okay, we're going to talk about this. So Wasco County is the only other county in Oregon. And that largely has to do with, her name is escaping me, but a woman who is on the behavioral support team in that school district and is a champion of trauma-informed care. And so she brought that ask to the school district and did a lot of the work to get it going.
You showed a chart early on that showed the difference between male and female suicides. Could you explain that again? Or show it again?
Yeah, so older adult men are more likely to use firearms, for a suicide attempt. Older men are more likely to attempt after they have lost their partner. And so it was the one with all the little lines. Yeah, there you go. And so the one of the reasonings, and I also could do a whole long thing on this of why older men are more likely to die by suicide. Yes. Yep.
So the assistance that you have for law enforcement, does it spill over into retired law enforcement? So my understanding is that oftentimes that's when they're most at risk, or they can't retire because they just keep going because they don't feel like they can.
So a lot of that is up to the law enforcement leadership. And so that is a consideration that they probably are aware of. Yeah. And so what we could do is provide, support. But when you have a group of people who are very insular and really only want to talk about their experience with each other, then it reduces our ability to tend to them. And so we really have to do a good job of creating relationships within the law enforcement agencies and kind of fostering their ability to tend to their own folks. And so that's kind of the work. I don't know if we're good. If there's any other questions, I have my business card up ahead, and there's Deborah Amin. No.
Thank you, Angela. I'm sorry to cut off. I can tell this could go on for a very long time because it's so pertinent. The other thing, I think it's very timely. If you remember our international president, R. Gordon, R. McAnally, his vision or theme for the year is creating hope in the world. And one of his project focus areas is mental health or mental well-being. So this is incredibly timely. So thank you. Leonora, Sergeant at Arms.
Just for you guys' entertainment, Don was kind enough to send out a gentle reminder that I was Sergeant of Arms, and I really appreciate that. And I jumped up, got my stuff together, and came yesterday for the Wednesday group. You can imagine my shock and surprise. And the woman looked at me and goes, "Oh, are you visiting?" And I said, "No, today's Wednesday, isn't it?" Anyhow, I thought you would enjoy that. So, yes. No, I had things to do. I had my Wednesday stuff to do. So I thought we would do today in history. August 10th actually marks National Lazy Day. So in the modern fast-paced world, it can feel next to impossible to kick back and relax. Fortunately, August 10th is the one day to do just that. National Lazy Day is the one day to stop thinking about work and enjoy a day of doing nothing. Be a couch potato today. You deserve it. Anyhow, and also some current events, things that are going on here in Grants Pass tonight. So we have music at the museum. It's Mr. Rupert Waits. It's at 7 o'clock right there in downtown and G Street. We also have the Head and the Heart at the Brit Festival. If you want to drive over to Jacksonville, it's also at 7 o'clock. Josh Turner is going to be at the Josephine County Fairgrounds, and Brews and Barbecue Nights at the Wild River. And Alana Springsteen at the Rocky Tonk Saloon in Medford, and Tap and Rock Brews and Music at the Tap Rock restaurant. So there you have it. You have plenty to do. So does anyone have any happy bucks? Beverly?
I have happy bucks because I enjoyed both the speakers today. I enjoyed Gina Marie's presentation on where to give money. And I definitely thought that the presentation today was so helpful. And so glad we record our meetings. And I will be sharing this meeting for sure. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes, I will be giving happy bucks for two of the same things. It was a great presentation. And it was also nice after all these years of being in here to truly see the buckets and understand how that works. Because that's always been something with me I didn't completely understand. And I also want to say these are kind of sad and happy bucks as we all have watched Maui struggle with the fire. I mean, has broken all of our hearts. I'm also thankful that this summer has been less smoky. And speaking of lazy days, I have been able to spend lazy afternoons out in my pool without smoke. And it has been a wonderful summer for that.
Oh, my brother and his wife are coming down tomorrow, and they're from the Seattle area. And keeping with the music theme, we're going to the Brit on Saturday night to see Buddy Guy, an old bluesman who is in his 90s.
Very cool. Anybody else? You just wanted to make me walk.
I did. You just got to move around. Yeah, exactly. I got a couple happy bucks. One, Gina Marie, that was excellent graphics on that presentation about the buckets and everything. Good job. And then a happy buck for, they're not here to compliment them, but that was pretty good enchilada. I don't know if how many people had that, but that was excellent food. And then we're also going camping to the coast, which is great, except I think we missed the weather pattern by about 6 days, right? It's going to be hotter than crap next week, a week from now. And so we missed it by a week.
I want to share some actually happy/sad bucks, just to acknowledge suicide and that phenomenon. When I was 13 months old and my fifth sibling, when my mother had her fifth child, and we were 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0, her older brother committed suicide. And he was a tall, charming man. Of course, I never met. And my parents didn't have the money or the wherewithal for her to go to the funeral, which was in New York. And at that time in the Catholic Church, it was a mortal sin, so her mother stood alone at the funeral for her son. And anyway, it's just something that touches us all. And I've had a lot of pain and angst in my life and lots of good times too, but never so much so that I thought I would harm myself. And so I can only imagine, what that feels like. So I want to thank you for the presentation and hope we can all continue to do better in that regard.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Well, and thank you for your excellent presentation. It's a discussion everybody needs to have these days. So thank you.
Well, let's wrap up another great meeting. Thanks again. A wonderful presentation, and thanks to everybody who helps pull these meetings off. It takes a lot of people and effort and things to just to get it all together. Okay, our thought for the day. Another man, sorry, Patty, but another guy. This is from Mark Twain. He says the two most important days of your life are the days you are born and the day you find out why. Thank you. That's it. Thanks, everybody.